where do they go to? Other African countries, not Nigeria. So you're asking why? It has to do with policies. And because we do not have the right policies, it's why we are where we are economically.
Wow. Well, I think we should move on to, from the Naira devaluation right now and move on to the next topic, where we have EFCC reviews how the sacked Accountant General of the Federation, Idris, stole public funds. Now, you recall that the former Accountant General of the Federation was granted bail yesterday by, by the court. And then the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has reviewed how the terms. Now, the NJSC said he compromised the Treasury single account, a government integrated financial management information system, the integrated payroll system, and personnel information system. Idris and his co-defendants, Godfrey Olusegun Akindele and Mohammed Kudu Usman, are standing trial in a 109.5 billion naira fraud. They were arraigned before Justice A.O. Adeyemi Ajayi Oretri High Court in Matama, Abuja on Thursday. And of course, the Chief Investigative Officer and Prosecution Witness 1, PW1, Hayatu Suleiman Ahmed, was led to in evidence rather by the prosecuting counsel, Rotimi Jacobs of San. But again, looking at the whole situation, 109.5 billion naira, it's always been alleged to have been stolen. Very recently, he was remanded in the correctional facility, Kuje, and just yesterday, he was also granted bail. But again, EFCC is also making out a statement, saying that, yeah, this guy, there's a high tendency that he committed the offense. Why is he still working free? And
it isn't out of place. Okay. According to the reasons why he was granted bail, was the EFCC had not produced enough evidence that would warrant the court to say keep him in detention. Right. So if that means you did not do a proper job before bringing the guy before the court, if you had done a proper job, we would not be having this conversation now. So then it's because he was granted bail doesn't mean he's out of the country. I'm pretty sure there are other conditions that were stipulated.
There's a condition that he can't even leave the federal capital.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's still going to be on trial. It's now left to for the EFCC to gather enough evidence and granting the man bail. I'm not a lawyer, but that much I know. And then the fact that, sorry to interrupt you, the fact that you mentioned the eyepiece. This eyepiece is a conversation that involves ASU as well, the payment platform. Yeah. And it will interest you to know that that platform is run by a foreign company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not run. In fact, money is paid to this company to run that system.
Is that the reason
per individual?
Is that the reason the federal government is actually insisting on using the IPs
well, you're saying that there's that rumor that perhaps there's some interest on that platform and personal interest. Maybe it's why someone is insisting that IPs must be what is used
instead of the UTAS.
Because if platform, and that's how they came with UTAS. Right. And they've tried and tried. According to them, it's working, but according to at the time the AGF was there, it wasn't working. Right. So now this is where we are. I feel like the EFCC should have done better. Before you bring a man to court, you should have your facts. Right. You should have your evidence lodged in. And you know that the moment you start trial, we'll go until we get to the end. And the situation we're finding ourselves now where you can't even present enough to keep this man in detention means, well, he works, you let him go.
And of course, they're also a law agency, and they are supposed to provide more details, more information as regards, just like we mentioned, the evidences that is supposed to that they are supposed to use in court against the AGF, because they are still speaking out loudly right now that the AGF is involved in that crime, and also there are some co-defendants there. So not providing evidences to do this particular job, that could also be termed as a failure in their part, right?
If the EFCC doesn't do a good job, it's only going to end up looking political.
And that's what we fear, because Nigerians are actually
don't forget, what's his name, Kyari?
Yeah, Abba Kyari.
His issue is last time when the Kuje attack happened, he said he hid like a rat, and he was trying not to escape, and so he went to the court and wanted bail. Well, although it wasn't, we don't know
granted.
what.
As it wasn't granted.
Exactly. Yeah. But the point I'm making is we have many top government functionaries, officials who are in court, and when you look at how the matter is being handled, you begin to ask questions. And in this particular case, if the EFCC really wants to win the trust of Nigerians. Remember, the accusation.
I threw this question to my guest last night because we took a similar case. If, for instance, the former AGF is being found guilty, what do you think would happen there?
Well, depends. What's the punishment for the crime? What does the Constitution... It's going to be something that would build faith. Nigerians, at least, to look at the EFCC and say, okay, but then some people will still ask questions. Questions like, or maybe he fell out with those people, the powers that be, and that's the reason why he's being made a scapegoat. You know, so all of these things will continue to come up. It's Nigerian politics, it happens. But the point is, if somebody commits a crime and you're able to prove with facts that this person committed a crime, and the court gives a judgment, well, that's what you do. There's no two ways about it. You can't go around it any way you look at it.
Considering the position of the former Accountant General of the Federation, basically, that position, it's a very sensitive one.
It was, many people felt like, oh, the president trusted him, was really close to the president. I mean, at one point, some people even felt like he was the one running the government. Those rumors were also circulating in public space.
I was going this way. Who actually checks, the AGF? Who checks him? Who does really beyond the fact that he answers to the president? But how
you just said it yourself now. He answers to the president. So he answers to the president. That's how it works. If he answers to the president, well, there you have your answer. It's as simple as that. Right? So this question you're asking now, it's the reason why at least we have the EFCC. You can't. How democracy is structured is to see that there are checks and balances. Not one person has all the powers. And if there weren't those checks and balances, well, we may not be seeing what we're seeing happening now. So it's not a situation where you say it wasn't being checked, because clearly it's being checked. Whether or not it's the AGF, even though at some point it felt like he was the Lord. Some people would say, but not in democracy, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. And again, Nigerians will want to ask, what are the criteria, what are the processes being taken to appoint the Accountant General of the Federation? Because looking at that position, just like we mentioned again, he was trusted. And of course, that position should be occupied by someone who is trusted, someone with high integrity, to also avoid situations like this to happen again in the future, where we'll have an AGF of the Federation being indicted for fraud. So what then could be put in place? How do we, what are the, processes?
It's not an elective position, first of all.
It's appointed.
You appoint. So it means you have influences. There's going to be nominations. And then list of people will be submitted to the president, and perhaps they go through. Now, you now also factor in political reasons, because your political party and
so there's a form
all
of
these things will play.
Affiliation.
Of course, definitely. This is Nigeria. Don't kid yourself. It happens everywhere in the world. People have candidates. They have lists. The president would even have his own choice. And this is who I'm want to appoint as my this, as my that. But largely, politics comes in. Your political party, there are names. You sit down. Remember, when the governor of the state suspended their no, it wasn't just the commissioners at the time, SEC, and then he needed to reappoint, and people were asking, suspend, why did you do that? He said, well, who would appoint, when would appoint? But these things take a lot of time. We'd have to have conversations. There's also political interest. There's a lot of things that you put on the table while you're making these decisions. So I don't think that anybody can get it 100% right. But whether you like it or not, this is going to play out like this.
It is.
Because it's not elective. And even if it's elective, with the system that we even have, for instance, look at the candidates that were, how the candidates that we have now emerged. It's almost like, even in an elective setting, it looks like it's appointed. So it's the system that we run, and that's how it is.
Well,
you take it or you leave it. You don't have a choice.
Simple. But we are supposed to have a choice, basically. But again, if that position is being appointed, so it means that when the AGF, for
who
instance,
appoints you has the powers. He who appoints has the power to fire.
Of course. So that means that there should have been a provision, rather, to see that once this individual that are appointed to this position is not delivering as expected, or there's an indictment on this person. Yes, there should be.
If in this case now it's been suspended, that's the most that would happen. And then the court would have to prove
that he is guilty.
That he's guilty.
Right.
And then he would face punishment. But then the moment he's indicted of one form of crime or the other, you suspend.
Right.
That's just it. Abba Kyari is also suspended.
Right.
So that's the situation. Like it was the same thing that happened with the CBN governor when he said he wanted to run for president.
Right.
And then calls came in and said you cannot be the CBN governor
and still run
and then want to run for president. I mean, we're scared for our finances.
Of course.
So it's either you step down, something has to happen. So
right.
It's the way it is. It's been suspended, and that's the right thing to do.
Okay. All right. You're still watching the Press Roundtable, and of course, this is Atlantic Television Network. Let's go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the defection by Senator Magnus Abe to the SDP. Don't go away.
Meet the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810-634-1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
The people.
Come back, and of course you are still watching the Press Roundtable, and you are on to Atlantic Television Network. Before we went on that break, we were talking briefly about the failure of the EFCC to produce or provide substantial evidence to have kept the former AGF still in the custody of rather in the correctional facility. But again, that matter is still ongoing, and we're hoping that EFCC is going to provide their evidence, and that the law is going to also have its due course. And I'm moving on to the next conversation this evening. Senator Magnus Abe finally announces his defection to SDP. There's been lots of speculation that Senator Magnus Abe will be moving down to SDP. Some persons called it the rumor bag, and eventually it has happened. And now Senator Magnus Abe is finally in the SDP after he has resigned his membership of the All Progressive Congress. Now, the move confirms reports that have trended in the rumor mills for weeks, with Abe long estranged from Rivers APC, boasting repeatedly in every fora that he will be on the 2023 ballot, and he can assure Rivers people that he was going to be on that ballot. Now, Andrew, every time Senator Magnus Abe has conversations, he would always mention the fact that he was going to be on the ballot in 2023. And Rivers people have been really asking, you didn't go for the APC primaries that happened, because as then he was still with the APC. And there is no other affiliation that we've heard about. But he keeps saying that he was going to be on the ballot box. And some Nigerians or some Rivers people have been thinking, is it going to be magical? I also recall very recently, INEC has released their list, and the senator's name was also not in the list that was released by INEC. And again, we're still hearing right now that Senator Magnus Abe is going to be on the ballot for 2023. How is that going to happen?
Well, first of all, Nigerian politics. Somebody will say what Nigerian politics cannot do does not exist. But then, to be serious about it, what does the Constitution say? What does the law say? What does the Act say? Electoral Act. So if there are stipulations as to what a political party or what INEC can do, or what allows a political party to substitute candidates.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure. I mean, the senator is a very smart man and very intelligent as well.
Right.
He understands these things. So if the conditions at the moment match what is provided in the law, then of course it's possible.
Okay.
Now, some of those demands would be perhaps in a situation where the candidate already filled by a political party is incapacitated or ill or dies. They may have to do another primary. But there's also the part where the party can also come up in a consensus and say this is who they want to replace them, to replace whoever they submitted before.
But is it going to be against the deadline of INEC?
That's where it's important now. So you'd also now ask, what is the deadline?
Right.
So these things will be for INEC to look at what the law says and make a decision.
Because they had given several deadlines. As a matter of fact, I think 17th of July was also a deadline given by INEC for all political parties to submit.
Don't forget, there was also a case in court. Someone who took, I think, the Labour Party candidate, and as well as, it was the PDP. The PDP took the Labour Party, as well as the APC to court, saying that INEC, and INEC as well, that they want the
Labour Party,
the candidates that were first submitted to INEC as vice presidential candidates. They were just there for substitutionary reasons.
And they call them the placeholders.
Placeholders, exactly. That's the word. So now they're saying, no, we want those placeholders to come back as the vice presidential candidates. So when Festus Okoye spoke about this, what he said too as well, and I'll quote him, is INEC would look at what the law says and work with that. And what does the law say about that? That's a whole different question. Like I said, paraphrasing, I already said some of the things that's demanded of you, of a political party, if you were to make that substitution. And now, whether or not those demands are being met, well, INEC would decide when it sits down. They have a legal department at the commission, so of course, they would have to sit down and look at what the law says.
Now, what INEC said to us there was actually in their law, as at the place of the placeholder, was that there were two instances as to which they would be able to change, or a political party rather, would be able to change the placeholder. One of those instances is if the placeholder
Is there anything
dies.
as a placeholder?
Well, they argue that.
That's the argument,
They
majorly.
argue that.
Does the Act recognize a placeholder?
Well, I'm not so certain, but that argument is still there. But again, okay, let's take away the word placeholder now.
As a candidate.
The candidate.
You submitted.
Basically, you
INEC
submitted
asked
the
for name and
candidate.
you submitted
Yeah.
name.
So INEC was saying if that candidate dies or withdraws from the race, these are the two instances that you could now change your candidate.
No, and then there's also a time frame for political parties if you want to substitute in case of whatever issues. Then it means you have to hold another primaries.
True. But I think most of those parties then they were taken to court. They also met the timeline.
Yeah,
remember the
they
APC
did.
announcing Shetima at the time again. No, not Shetima, now Masari.
Yes.
As a placeholder, and then if I'm not
Okupe
mistaken, Okupe for Labour Party.
Who was the party? I think it was a
Party chairman, campaign DG rather.
DG.
Campaign DG. Of course, Okupe's case was quite funny at the time because he came out from the onset to say that, listen, I'm not the writer. I'm not going to be.
He always said it,
and that he was just in quote the placeholder. That's the word. That's like the vocab now that we've come to hold on for the election.
All of these things will only make the job more complex for INEC. But at the end of the day, INEC would have to sit down with their legal team and look at what the Act says. And if nobody is falling short of the law, then there's nothing you can do about it. As for the Senator Abe to the SDP, well, he's defected. But he's a smart man, like I said. And prior to this announcement, remember, there was a letter that was circulating. He had to come out and say he wrote no letter. And then there was even the talks that he had left the APC in River State.
Yeah.
But he's still a member of the APC at the national level.
Right.
Because he says he was still supporting
their candidate, Tinubu.
Yes. So it brings us, and I told some people, most of the people whom we have seen over time who have left the APC in River State all wrote to their ward chairman.
Right. Right.
Has he written to his ward chairman? I'm just putting that out there. 'Cause I listened to him and I looked at the situation, had conversations, and I was just thinking, well, if you're going to leave, and the argument, some will say, for you to resign means you're holding some sort of position in the party.
Right.
Before you would say, that's another argument altogether.
Argument.
Before you say you resign, otherwise you can just leave. But then, are we saying he's no longer a member of the AP? That was at the time he made that comment.
Right.
But now he's announced that
it is
he's
official.
a member. Is official.
That's not an SDP member.
But then, did he
right,
inform his ward chairman? Because that's where it starts from.
But
So tomorrow we do not have another case that comes up, and then we're going to court again and they're saying, I did not do this, I did not do that. So what does even the party? What does the party constitution say about someone leaving the party? Is there a process?
Yeah.
And if there's a process, did he follow that process? Otherwise, I smell another court case in the future.
That's where I was going to basically, because in 2019, Abe was with the APC, and he had his ambition to be to run for the governorship election, but that didn't happen. You know, APC as a that didn't also have, in quote, a bearing here in River State then. Now he has moved to the SDP. Does he stand a chance for us against the ruling party?
First of all, he's not the candidate of the SDP yet. He's not the governorship candidate of the SDP.
He just joined the party. You know, he's always been saying that he's going to be on the ballot.
We don't know how he's going to do it until he does it.
Okay.
What we know at the moment is Senator Abe is not a governorship candidate. He's just a member of the SDP.
We agree with that.